Hi, how are you tonight?
I just realized I remuted myself there. So
I was like, give her a minute, and then you figured it.
well, it's hard with I have an inline one and the regular one. So if I use the inline one, I don't know I'm muted.
It's
Eventually.
too fancy for me. I'm very basic over here.
Well, I focus better with the headset phone. I mean, it's like the horse with the blinders on, right?
Yeah, you get in the zone.
Me on task. Yeah. Yeah.
Whatever works for everybody is great.
I know it. Oh.
Do you live in a place where you get a lot of trick-or-treaters, or are you not in the zone?
In 23 years, I have never had a trick-or-treater. So I'm up on Crossroad at the top of, Slayton Hill and all this. So I don't know. I think it's like a community compact up here. Everyone agrees. We don't do that. But I did go down. My mom lives with us, and we went down by the green and around and just sat and watched the trick-or-treaters go by. So that's fun. How about you?
No, we don't. And when I was coming home from work, Smokey the Bear was out in front of the firehouse, and all the kids were lined up, and everyone in the car just drove as slowly as we could to see all the cute little costumes, and seeing the community come together, it just made me so happy. And it was such a nice night. I remember bundling up our boys underneath their costumes because it was so cold.
Right. Snow, you never knew. When my kids were little, they were still doing it at the powerhouse. That was and it was full. So you just went to store, and it was because my childhood memories involved jackets over your costumes, very disappointing. And I loved, it was just, so that's why it was fun to drive by, and we went slowly through the parking lot so we could get a good close view.
Yeah, it was nice.
Yeah. Yeah.
We'll give people a few minutes. I did get one or two folks just let me know that they're not going to be here tonight, which is always helpful. And one of those folks is Sean. He let me know last time. There's a pretty big, I'm not quite sure if this is why, but I know there's a lot on his city council meeting going through tonight. I'm not 100% sure if he had another meeting before that one, but I know he had a lot going on with the city.
Joanne, I'm going to be I'm going to be attending on my phone while cooking and eating dinner.
That's great. We're just glad you're here, and we won't have any comments, but I'm hoping you're going to make something good to eat. I just quickly reheated. My husband made a great chicken parm, and so we'll eat it for a couple of nights. And I was so happy when I opened the refrigerator and he didn't take it for lunch so that I could grab it for dinner tonight.
Ready to go. Yeah.
So based on time, if it's okay, since we're here, let's get started. Hopefully other people will join us. As I mentioned, Sean can't be here today. And so for a quick icebreaker, either a favorite movie or favorite type of movie that you enjoy watching. How about you, Faye?
My goodness, I love some of the old, I'm not a huge movie watcher, but the old cult classics like, Attack of the Killer Tomatoes. And somebody reminded me of the Amazon Women of the Avocado Jungle, which Bill Maher is in. It was just, those are the ones I love. Creature from the Black Lagoon, just weird, offbeat things. So.
Nice. How about you, Amy?
I'm going to reveal my lack of culture, and my go-tos are all the Chevy Chase National
Lamb food. That's great.
Got a lot of company with that.
Yeah. I like a rom-com. I remember I really liked Working Girl for a long time. That was like my movie, my go-to, with the boss who was kind of crabby and the underdog making her way through to the top. And so I like those kinds. And so we're going to hop in. Elizabeth isn't here, but I am curious what's kind of happening with the River Valley Club expansion project. I'm not quite sure where she is with that. And we were just curious because she mentioned it a couple months ago. And then last time we agreed to our North Star and strategic goals, and folks asked me to begin to develop a rubric for the scoring applications. So I'm going to hop on. I'm on 2 devices. So let me try to hop on the right one. People weighed in, which was super helpful, and gave some suggestions and ideas. And one of the things I did is I went back onto the RFI itself, which is right online. And the reason I did that is if we develop this rubric and the applicants are asked to provide this information, then it's not going to match. But I do think in looking through the applications with this in mind, if a certain applicant hit more of these without even having to be asked, it might be interesting to see. And so I did a very simple scale of just 1, 2, and 3, didn't provide information or wasn't clear, provided the information with a basic description without a lot of detail, and then provided the information with a lot of detail, examples, and a clear plan. And so we talked first about, did the applicant focus on a child, staff member, and family-centered approach philosophy? Does the applicant define what high quality will look like? So the interpersonal, physical, and program support structures. Did the applicant provide specific examples to ensure accessibility for all students and families? Did the applicant provide information about the sliding scale, the accreditations currently held? Does the applicant discuss how they would achieve New Hampshire level 3 equivalent status, which I don't know what that means, which is wonderful that other people do to be able to add that into this rubric? Did they talk about, can they provide a solid plan for early childhood educator staffing levels? From a document I was working off of, because I Googled and then compiled questions, I had guarantee, and Jessica, I think it was Jessica who wrote in and said, in this world, can we actually expect them to guarantee? Or is it more important that they can provide a solid plan for staffing levels and how they would go about doing it? Did they provide information about professional development for staff members? Is the role of the director or directors clearly defined? Did they include years of experience with programming budget, either maintaining a facility or being able to communicate how to keep a safe, healthy, well-maintained environment? Did they describe any equipment and materials that might be needed in each classroom that's developmentally appropriate and flexible? Did they describe the support offered for students with special needs? Do they talk about educator-child ratios, experience providing programs for children birth to 12, and also during the morning and afternoon? And I read the RFI, and it looks like they're looking for a 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. program with potential expansion for people who work different shifts. And then talking about SEL, so social emotional learning and life skills, a comprehensive description of what each day would look like from both the educators and the child's perspectives, nutrition and food sources, family engagement activities, outline ways to collect data to monitor and revise policies, safety protocols, sustainable and sufficient funding system. Did they articulate how they would provide care during the non-traditional hours? So that kind of combines with one up above. And some of these, I think I can combine, because this one talks about training opportunities for new child care workers. We can put that under professional development. actually what they would pay for salaries for different staff positions and what benefits, and did they demonstrate the ability to, I'm trying to, for some reason, my page doesn't want to go down for the last one. Maybe I can move this. Demonstrate the ability to provide infant care services. Are there any other key things you think that a group should put as part of their information if they're applying to run this center?
My only thought right now, I want to make sure that none of this comes across like you have to have everything, right. You know, because otherwise Boys and Girls Club's going to walk in and get it, because there's just little capacity of centers today to even answer all those questions and have thought. So in that thing, I guess I would say that the ECEA is available to support them in their application process. Like if they want to brainstorm or they want to help to discuss it or whatever, like we could be there to help them navigate the application.
Is that something that I should share with Sean and have him push out, or would I put it onto the ECE initiative listserv?
I would do both. I think that he should be aware that the ECEA can act as, you know, a support mechanism for anybody who wants to apply. Okay. And, you know, whether it's just straight up encouraging or, you know, kind of just saying, do your best. You know, not everybody's going to strike it, like you were saying before, like maybe just a plan that it, you know, I would plan like meeting children with special needs, which special need, you know what I mean? But there's a could put that would kind of talk about your philosophy of working with children and families that are supporting children with special needs. And it can just be your philosophy. It doesn't have to be a strategy, because you don't know if the child's autistic or, you know, hearing impaired or whatever.
And also working with different local organizations like the Child's Place or school district or the hospital setting.
And I think that's what Amy just said, you know, for people who are very good at their job, but not necessarily good at filling out applications, ECEA is somebody to say, you can answer that question by referring to the agencies you would look to for support. That's a plan. That's a strategy. That's, you know, articulating what you don't have to do it yourself. I think that community awareness would be attractive to somebody, you know, as you're evaluating it. I will say this is so comprehensive. I was thinking, oh, wow, good thing it's only 1, 2, and 3, because that's very straightforward. And I know that was Liz, who is very happy to be part of that. Her question was, what am I evaluating? And I said there would be a rubric. So I think from that point of view, this is really helpful and comprehensive too.
Great. And once again, if they touch on a few, when I went into the RFI, and did you both see the RFI? It's not very specific. This is much more specific. So I think we have to be fair, and that in the application process, they weren't asked to go in depth on any of these. And it might be something when I was driving in the car, I was thinking about this and kind of talking out loud to myself, thinking, well, what it could be is phase 1, did the applicants meet that minimum that Sean was looking for? And perhaps there's a phase 2 where if it's down to 2 organizations or individuals, they're asked to provide more specific information. And perhaps this rubric is kind of a round 1, round 2, rather than expecting them to hit all of this when they weren't asked to do it. I think it's unfair in a way.
I had one other question that maybe ties in with that a little, which I guess, you know, there was a number of space that, I think the number 200 has been put out. And it occurred to me that if I were a child care center in the area already had 100, and I said, well, I would rather close mine and do this. This is a more supported and so on. There's only a net gain in that case of 100. This is totally theoretical because obviously I don't know child care centers in the area. But is there any concern that somebody could choose to close and reopen under this, and that would not necessarily, as I said, gain as many places?
Yes. Yes. Mm-hmm. The intention of a few that I have spoken to, which is why I wanted to kind of bring back the alternative solution of expanding capacity within their own centers. And I was hoping that work would kind of evolve, like melve into this. Mm-hmm. They would say, we really wanted to expand our program, and we had 6 centers that said they were interested in expansion. So that would be, that'd be a great that would be a great way to take experienced, already intact running centers and expand their programs, their number of sites, and not close a program because they can't afford, and the reality is they can't afford their buildings.
Right. Yeah, and that of course is the best case scenario, is existing, expand in a financially and a feasible way, and additional spaces. So thank you, Amy. That's helpful.
And this is a little off topic, but I think when Amy said meld, I have been attending, as have several people, both the workforce and the facilities meetings. And so much of it dovetails and almost repeats itself that I'm thinking of combining the two committees. And the reason is we have people who are coming and going. We have people who are saying, well, should this live here or should this live there? So rather get caught up in the which box should it fit in, bring us all together, have a few less meetings a month, right? Because we wouldn't be holding both. And maybe we can get more people to attend just because of life. There's only so much time. And then say, hey, you're really interested in this part of what was workforce. Great. You guys go work on that. You guys were really interested in this part of facilities. Fantastic. You guys go work on that. So by combining, I think we'll increase the stakeholders that can come to meetings and kind of stop the dialogue a bit that keeps going back and forth and holding us up. So I'm going to talk to the steering committee about that. Both Sean and Amy thought that was a good idea, good use of time, a good use of listening to people and saying what works best. So I just wanted you to know about that, Faye, that's kind of in the back of our minds. And when I went online today, I think there were 4 organizations that signed up. If you go under the RFI, and it's the tabs to the far right, I can't remember what the title of it was, but there was a Boys and Girls Club. There was a Montessori. There was one in Norwich. And I can't remember what the 4th one was, but I think it closes November 18th or something along those lines, with a 2-week opportunity for the city to answer any questions applicants might have. And so I think it's a great idea. I will put that out tomorrow or tonight as far as, and Amy, would I use you and your contact information as point person for assistance?
Yes. And the other thing I'm thinking, like before I lose it, because I'm doing meatballs, is when we're considering the rubric, I feel like, the process that the New Hampshire PDG did was they really, they want it all. We always want it all, but they prioritize the ones they would look at, like the half. So you would choose like health and safety and things like that. Business management, like the things that really make it successful. That would be like tier 1. And then tier 2 would be, you know, extra hours and, you know, but you can't really ask, I don't think, everyone to hit every single thing.
Right.
Just, yeah, I think, and if somebody's really good in the tier 2, but not good in business management, is that a better handoff? Like, I think there are certainly there's a few key things that need to be, that are have tos. And then we could do like tier 2 and tier 3.
That makes sense. Well, who were you referencing? You cut out New Hampshire.
Preschool Development Grant, the PDG.
Okay, thank you.
You know, you were given extra points if you addressed infant toddler slots. You were given extra points if you addressed whatever. You know, it was like, here's the base. And then you would gain points by having the extras. But they didn't put it out like you have to do everything. It was, you must do these things, and that you get extra points if you can address the infant toddler crisis, if you can address family childcare, if you can address whatever.
And I think I can go back to the RFI and print it out, because there were sections that they had. I picture them in like a light blue header. And then it was called their scope of work. And I could print those out, because those would be the tier 1s for sure, because that's what they're asking them for. And then maybe like the tier 2 could be other things that this group came up with, which would be very beneficial in creating this program, and just kind of even thinking about what needs to be put in place beyond an organization coming in, the philosophy and the parent engagement and all those kinds of things. So I definitely think that's great feedback, and I can help with that. I did have a phone call or a Zoom meeting with Damien today, and he is the person who's working in Orange County with the Randolph Center. And although he's very busy, he said he might be interested in attending some of our committee meetings, and he shared very similar things that you've said, Amy, like the chicken and egg concept. If you don't have staffing, you can't expand. There are families that don't have childcare. So kind of where do you start? And he learned a lot through his experiences that I think would be helpful with the conversation about yes and supporting people who are already in the field providing those services. And he talked a lot about subsidies and not so much the facilities needs, like adding bathrooms like you described, but he had other examples that were right along the same line. So it'd be nice to have him join a couple meetings if he could, to bring those experiences from the Vermont side in. I also met with Rick Mills today, Dartmouth College, and we talked about his support of this work, which we think he'll continue to support. And I'm going to send him, when the charter's finalized, what it looks like, and perhaps besides Sunny, who's been fantastic, maybe someone who wears another hat from Dartmouth College could pop in to some of these meetings, particularly since we're going to combine, I think we're going to combine the two. So I also talked with a person from my Ed Day leadership. She is Sullivan County, very interested, and she works in the county departments that oversee police and fire. Her husband, I believe, is a fireman, and how they're struggling with daycare. So that brings another county and another perspective into the conversation about advocacy and need for early childcare. So I am working on connecting the dots a bit to bring voices in to support this work. That's so important. I just wanted you to know that I've been doing that a bit on the side. And Amy, in regard to the modular, I did contact my director of facilities, who sent that note with a link, and he's going to ask them about costs. And it seems like the size of the modular is on the small side compared to the ones that I can find on the websites. But at least if we know what the cost would be, it's something that you can tell people and that you've looked into. So I will get back to you on that if that's all right in the next couple of days.
Yes, thank you. We've been, we have been talking to different salespeople, and they get back to us. We're just not a big enough contract,
Mm-hmm. And sometimes it's who you know, like Sean was the one who let us know about the used one that's behind the old junior high. Faye, you might be familiar with the old junior high in Leb. There's the one that Richardson had in the back, but it's been sitting there 8 years. And goodness knows what has successfully lived between that and the rail trail and the, food that's given out at soccer games that are played on the field. Well, we'll keep looking at that. So for tonight's meeting, I really, wanted to catch up about that. Sean has heard from people, I think, who are interested in participating in the RFI application review committee, which is fantastic. As far as other business, I did want to talk about combining the groups and the reasons why. It's because I do value them both, and I do value people's time that I'm considering bringing that to the steering committee. I did update the charter today a little bit. We're going to relook at the wording for the steering committee, bringing it back to early childhood educators rather than professionals, and compensation and benefits rather than fair wages. So all the North stars align, and it connects better with the work that's happening in Vermont. So I'm doing that. Is there anything else for this facilities and models work group that I can help with, or ideas or things you wanted to talk about at the meeting tonight?
I just had a quick question because when I did look at the potential vendors, I noticed 2 of them are woman-based enterprises, or they have a special designation, which also, as I looked, we have 2 that are local. So it's Immersion Montessori School and Upper Valley Preschool are the 2 local ones. Boys and Girls Club are New Hampshire, and then there were 2 out of state, which I assume are, the larger learning care group from Michigan, and On-Site Kids from North Carolina. And I don't know at what point, it's for me, that question of, are there other criteria, other things that we're looking at in businesses we want to encourage, and at what point that is there? Because my personal interest would be supporting local without losing, expanding versus losing, and less interested in, nationwide groups with 20,000 employees.
So I'm going to type that in down below so I don't forget, but I'll just call it local ties. We know what that means.
Yeah, that's fine.
And then minority, is that appropriate to say minority owned businesses?
Or we could just say diverse. Is it diversity, or because this women business enterprise, it showed up as WBE, so there's actually some category or designation that they must have noted, and I'm not sure how they got it to show up on the followers list, but it's there as a designation. And Sean would probably know how they categorize it. But
yeah, great point. Anything else that we want to talk about tonight?
I think that's where the rubric, like if you go straight up and down, those franchises, Boys and Girls Club, they're gonna meet every point. Like I don't even know if our local providers can compete. And anyway,
is there a way to shore it up, a way to make it more equitable for people who don't? Hello, Ruth. How are you? Welcome.
And I think,
hi, thank you.
Yeah, I think, Amy, that's what I'm kind of getting at, is that there's there is an advantage to local when we're talking about, how would they work within an existing system, and local has that advantage. So how do we make sure that that's being recognized, so they're not kicked out of the ring before we even get to that point, just because they don't fill an application out with great detail. So, yeah.
Just to catch you up, Ruth, we reviewed the rubric that I'm showing, and it was part of the link. And some of the feedback is I'll go into the RFI and kind of make headers based on what people are asked to put into that. And then we have these kind of other considerations. It might be around 1 to see who applies, and then round 2 to ask more specific questions or ask more information. And we were ending the meeting talking about other considerations for people who applied for the leavening concept, local ties, diversity and ownership, or the directors, and things like that. So we just, we spent our time talking about that. I also mentioned that there are a lot of conversations that happen in this group that are very similar, dovetailing and almost repetitive with the workforce retention group. So I'm thinking of combining the 2 groups, decreasing everyone's time by 2 hours or so a month, because time is so precious, combining the goals, and people can still have their passion projects of what they want to work on in each of those committees. But it just makes sense that we're asking a lot. Well, should this live under workforce, or should this live under facilities? And it kind of fits under both umbrellas. So that's what we talked about so far. And I was just kind of looking at any other business before we ended tonight.
Can I ask a question since I missed it? What was there a decision made about combining the groups, or was there a feeling that people had one way or the other?
People had been, the folks who are in the multiple groups with me consistently hear, well, what is, they're both hand in glove with each other. So, and then talking with Amy and talking with Sean, by combining the groups, we'll also have more people who are able to attend meetings consistently, because we have people who just can't. And then we're repeating what we said at the last meeting. So if we can combine them, we'll have more voices to say, hey, this is what happened at this meeting. It decreases people's time that's spread so thin, but the goals will still be the same. But I think it'll answer people's questions in the moment, rather than waiting 2 weeks for me to get an answer and then circling back around to do that. But I was curious, Ruth, does the 6 to 7:30 time, does that really work best for educators in the field because you are working, or you're just so exhausted that you have your own family stuff? And is it better to just keep it during the day?
I mean, I think every program is a little different. For me, most of the time during the day is a little easier, because if I fill in the classroom till 5 o'clock, then I've got to try to figure out how to get home. If I have my son that evening, figuring out dinner and all of those things, it's hard sometimes. And as the weather gets worse, it's going to take me longer to get home. So
I was thinking of you and Tammy and others, and wondering, the exhaustion level, and also just needing to be home with your family as well right now. Amy's trying to cook dinner while she's on this phone call, and I
had forgotten like the time of the meeting, and I had to like run and go grab a pizza from somewhere and get home and feed my son and all those things. So it is a little challenging in the evenings. Normally when I schedule evening meetings, I don't schedule them till like 6:30 to just give enough time to get home, get settled, and at least hop online. But for me, the daytime ones that we have been having, that works a little better. It's like either I can be there or I'm stuck in a classroom and I can't, but it's a lot easier than trying to figure out the evenings.
Well, I appreciate that feedback. I wanted to make sure that I was thinking of all the different people, and making this decision, and not just being out of the blue. It does seem a lot of the folks, the stakeholders, can pull out a chunk of their workday to attend, particularly if they know in advance and it's steady. It's going to be a little tricky over Thanksgiving and for those who celebrate, Christmas and other celebrations, to figure out the time that we'll meet for December into January. So I want to try to get our meetings up and running, because the world slows down a little bit, but that's the same time that, and we need it to slow down a little bit, but that's about the time that we'll know who got voted in. So that'll be interesting to kind of figure out where we land with that. And congratulations. I saw the article in the Valley News.
Yes, I've been busy. And I'm actually, working on the potential of, because they've changed the age ranges for groups of children in childcare in Vermont, and now our groupings are different. So I'm trying to create possibly a third group of toddlers that's a transitional group that would be kids that are coming out of our infant class at 18 months instead of 24 months. And because there's a disparity in development between kids who are like 18 months to 24 months ish versus the kids who are over 2 and heading towards 3. And so trying to make that, I'm trying to see if we can possibly add some like 5 additional slots, which would really help us move infants through our infant room faster. So maybe families aren't waiting and aging out and I can't get them in until they're 2. So I'm just working on it. I have a lot of moving parts trying to address this specific problem, but the workforce piece is the biggest piece, because without that, it just doesn't happen.
And that's why also combining that, you know, Amy, I'd really like to give you a chance to talk about your plan for, you know, recruitment and retention. I know you've done a ton of work on it. And that way, if we combine the groups, both groups would be hearing this big idea at once, rather than kind of piecemeal back and forth. And then, okay, there's that piece of that vision, here's this piece of this vision, and kind of align it a little bit more. So I know you've been talking a lot about it, Amy, and I just want to give you like the floor to finally explain it all at once. I think that would be great. I'm excited to hear it and kind of what's been percolating in your head, to be able to share it with all of us. So any other business that we wanted to talk about tonight? All right, seeing none, it's nice to see everyone. Amy, I hope your dinner turns out great. And we'll be recording it and sending out the minutes. And our next meeting, just going to the top of the page, is going to be, I think it's November 23rd. No, Monday, November 21st. And that's one that's from 1 to 2:30 via Zoom. And although Sean can't be here tonight, I'm hoping he'll be back to help facilitate at that meeting. Take care, everybody. Have a good one.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.